So the first game of round 22 is in the books, and the Sydney Roosters are pretty much, it's not official yet, but their season's over. They'll have to go undefeated as well as have results go their way to remain in this 2023 competition. But there is no doubt that is a long shot, especially considering their run home. I mean, look, it's not the hardest in the competition. They've got to play the Eels and the Rabbitohs as well as the Dolphins and the Tigers. But the way the Roosters are playing, they have absolutely no chance in heckers. They're going to be playing finals footy this season. So, yeah, it's pretty obvious. It's the title of the video today. They are, without a doubt, the biggest disappointment of the 2023 season. Now, just have to quickly touch on the Brisbane Broncos. And look, everything great about the Broncos has already been said. I think they definitely are one of the premiership contenders. Now, I do think Penrith are by far and away the favourites, and then they're in the tier below with probably the Rabbitohs and the Warriors as the main challengers to Penrith. I think everyone is already going to say what people have said about Brisbane all year. I think that they're a premiership contender. I just want to give a quick shout out to Paddy Carrigan, who scored his first try. He's probably, in my opinion, the middle forward of the competition. The form one, and probably the most valuable. I know Payne Haas is getting talked about as a $1 million player. I think Carrigan's more valuable, and I think he's better. Yes, Haas stuffs the stat sheet, and honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if Payne Haas went down as the best front rower of all time. But the things Paddy Carrigan does on the field and off the field, it's like you're combining Jake Trbojevic with Payne Haas and putting him in a lock position. That is how good he is going. So, also a quick shout out to Herbie Farnworth. He's just one of these guys who can't play Origin, so therefore I feel like we all forget about him. But he is probably the best left centre in the competition. Obviously, when Latrell's there, you probably say him, but obviously you probably rank him as a fullback because he's not a centre. I can't think of one that's jumping out to me. Bradman Bez had a great Origin. I still probably put someone as like Campbell Graham as the best centre in the competition, but man, at left centre, I can't think of many that are jumping out at me, but Herbie Farnworth is probably my pick. But yeah, not too much to say about the Broncos. An excellent first half. This team's getting better and better. I think that they conceded 2 tries within 5 minutes of that second half. That's not too much of a worry. This team, Kevy, it's his first finals run. I think that's the biggest question over the Broncos is how can they handle when they actually get to September. But you guys didn't click on the title of this video to hear me talk about how good the Brisbane Broncos are. You want me to rip into the Sydney Roosters because, yes, without a doubt, there is no argument. While I can sit here and admit that my team, the mighty Manly Warringah Sea Eagles, ahead of Cherry's 300th game, the greatest day in the Northern Beaches, while I can admit that they've also been disappointing, this Sydney Roosters side is not just the most disappointing team of this year, not just the disappointing team of the past 2 years. I think when you look at the roster and where they're likely to finish, I think it might be the most disappointing team of the NRL era. Now, the quick one that jumps out to me is the 2018 Cowboys, but you can sort of justify why they fell off. Jonathan Thurston came back from a season-ending shoulder injury. Same with Matt Scott. So those boys were not the players they were. They were way past their primes. Whereas you look at this Roosters side, they're all young, they're all fit, and they've been fit most of the season. Now, I know there's been some injuries, and I wouldn't say that they've definitely been there, had their starting 17 available all year. But when you look at their depth and who they've still got, I mean, it's what, round 22? And they were still not Nelly favourites. That was a kind way to put it. But when you look at their form line compared to, let's say, not the Broncos. Let's say oh my God. The Dolphins were playing the Broncos. The Dolphins would be paying like $6 to win. And they've probably been in better form than the Roosters. I know the Roosters probably blinded a lot of people and tricked them into thinking that they played themselves into form. But they didn't play themselves into form. That was not it from the Sydney Roosters last week. The Gold Coast didn't have Tino, and they were completely outplayed by the Roosters because of the talent this Roosters team has. You have, going into this year at least, arguably the best fullback in the competition, the best winger of the past decade. Well, one of them, congratulations to Daniel Tupou on getting that, becoming what? The highest try scorer in a team that's actually been around for over 100 years. That's actually pretty insane. So, quick shout out to Daniel Tupou. You've got him in the side. You've got one of the biggest up-and-coming superstars in the side. Now, I do think the whole rugby union situation has definitely affected Suaalii. And look, if I'm him, I'm seriously consider leaving earlier because obviously the environment, it's just toxic around him now. And I'm not going to rip on him because, look, if I was getting the same at 20 years old, heck, that's pretty much me now. If I was getting that money from rugby union, I would have been on the first plane fucking last year, mate. So I can't really rip on Suaalii too much. You've got a premiership winning half in Luke Keary, 3 premiership wins for Luke Keary. You've got arguably, he was better than Nathan Cleary was at 20, the best 20-year-old prospect I've ever seen at halfback. You got JWH, Lindsay Collins, who was nearly the best player in Origin. You got Brandon Smith. Angus Crichton has obviously had his issues, and I'm not going to go into that too much because mental health and yeah, that's a different subject. That's not my expertise. But you got Nat Butcher, who's one of the up-and-coming players. You got Victor Radley, who would probably be playing Origin, not this year, but Victor Radley's fallen off. I haven't even mentioned guys like Egan Butcher. I know Connor Watson's been injured most of the year, but Tyrrell May, he's a pretty handy player. You've got all these players who, at any of the clubs, could potentially be walk-up starters, and they just have not fired a shot. I can't think of one Roosters player who's been in career best form. And it's just insane to me how much power this Nick Politis guy actually has. I shouldn't say it like that because the guy has done more for rugby league than I ever will. But it's crazy because in my opinion, if the Rabbitohs were going like this, could you imagine the blowtorch being put on Cody Walker, Latrell Mitchell, Jason Demetrio? Whereas I've heard nothing about Robbo's future, and Robbo has had, besides probably Penrith, but even when you compare the two teams on paper, at the beginning of the year and last year, many people were saying the Roosters, player for player, had a better roster for Penrith. And not only that they don't look close to Penrith, they don't look much worse than Manly without Tommy Turbo. He's had 24 months to get this right. Robinson, to be fair to him, he has tried, but he did so by dropping Sam Walker. And we haven't seen Sam Walker since, what, round 7? Like, you blamed Kyle Flanagan for the whole couldn't live up to Cooper Cronk thing, and now you're throwing Sam Walker under the bus. Luke Keary, unfortunately, ever since his head knocks, and mostly, more importantly, ever since that ACL he suffered during the COVID season, he just hasn't been the same player. And let's face it, I love Luke Keary, but he's never been the go-to half in a premiership winning side. He had Adam Reynolds in 2014, and he had Cooper Cronk, who's nearly an immortal in 2018 and 2019. I think Sam Walker's the man you got to give the keys to. I think when he comes back, there's no time to wait in reserve grade. I mean, look, you may as well plan for the future now because your season is over. Now, I'm not saying plan for the future is in throw Suaalii or Joey Mano at fullback, but give the keys to Sam Walker. He's the 7 going long term. I know the Roosters can recruit anyone, it seems, but you can't let a guy like Sam Walker go. Like I literally just said, he's probably the biggest prospect we've ever seen from a halfback since Nathan Cleary, since DCE, if you want to go back that far. I can't remember a rookie having as good as a year as a starting halfback as he did during 2021, and God, they've definitely made him feel uneasy. I'd honestly be going to Drew Hutchinson and Sam Walker. I know it sounds crazy, but in 2021, on paper, that 2021 side should get killed by this 2023 side. But I don't know whether it was the loss to the Morris brothers. I don't know whether it was Orbo, but I think Orbo had retired by that point. I don't know what's going on. But on paper, that 2021 side is miles behind this side. But if they play each other tomorrow, I reckon the 2021 side puts 50 on them. And I don't want to blame just Luke Keary, because you can't blame just one player. But James Tedesco, I think he was pretty good against the Titans, but that whole team was. But just ever since, I don't know what, the World Cup? Like, this year, he just hasn't been the same. Whether it's at Origin, whether it's for the Sydney Roosters. So, I don't know what the answer is for the Roosters. If I had to guess, I'd just be doing what I said. I'd be giving the keys to the kingdom to Sam Walker. It's his team now. When I look at this side, I feel like they're all second guessing themselves and they're all trying to be the superstars. Like, if I'm Trent Robinson, I'm simplifying the game plan because you get more accolades when you're doing a job and you're winning rather than being the main problem and then losing. Like, in this game, there was just a simple play where Brandon Smith took the line on down the left side after a quick play of the ball, and he went for a ridiculous cutout over the top pass. A Harbour Bridge pass by Brandon Smith. Like, I love you, Brandon. You're one of my favourite players in the whole competition, but that was not it. And honestly, I think they're going to play Manly next week. Manly's season will be on the line. When you compare the rosters, they played a month ago. Manly beat them. When you compare the rosters, that game should be a no contest. A 34-year-old halfback literally beat them by himself a month ago. I'd just be simplifying everyone's role. I wouldn't have Joey Manu be trying to be Joey Manu. I'd have him trying to be Campbell Graham. And I don't know if Joey Manu is better than Campbell Graham anymore. I think there might be a lot of questions. I think Chance has been better than Joey Manu this year, and I probably know they won't because I feel like it's sort of like Origin with that Kiwi side. They're very loyal. But I'd be throwing Chance at fullback if I was in charge of that Kiwi side, whether they're playing Australia or what. But this Roosters side is so interesting. Like I said, 24 months they've had now, 2 years. And in this period where, let's face it, they should have won a premiership, and even going into next year, we're all going to have them in our top 4 again because you can't ignore how good this side is on paper. I think next year could be a defining year for the Roosters. I think they'll stick by guys like Keary, Tedesco, Waria Hargraves has signed on one year extension, Trent Robinson. I feel like if we're in this position again, or even if they're like hanging around the bottom of the 8, between 7th to 11th, or even where they are now, then real questions are going to have to hit because there's no reason why this team of what will have been 3 years are going this badly. Like I said, if I was Robbo, keys to the kingdom of Sam Walker, he's the guy. Pretty much do what he did in 2021. I'd honestly be going maybe Walker at 6, having him be the main attacking guy, Hutchinson at 7, just control the team. A guy like Drew Hutchinson's off contract though. I don't think Sandon Smith's the answer. Maybe keeping a guy like Ronald Volkman was the play. Maybe they got someone else coming through. I mean, it's the Sydney Roosters. Who knows? They could pull something up. They'll bring Mitchell Pearce back during the off-season. So it'll be interesting to see where the Sydney Roosters go from here. But that is a line through them for 2023. Unless something absolutely ridiculous happens. But yeah, without a doubt, the biggest disappointments of 2023. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching the video. Let me know in that comment section, do you think the Sydney Roosters are any chance of playing finals footy this season, or is it next year starting now? Like the video, guys, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one. Friday Night Footy, Friday.